under the searing weight of a merciless midsummer sun. The plains of Dustwell shimmered with gold dust and ghost light, as if the land itself was caught between memory and mirage. Cicadas wailed like grief bottled too long, and even the wind moved, slow, burdened by the kind of silence that came after too much suffering. Caleb Boone guided his wagon down a forgotten trail near Willow Creek, where weeds rose higher than a man's waist and the Carter property sat crumbling into the earth. A leaning fence, a dry well, and a barn that once held wheat, but now hoarded shadows. He wasn't the sort to wander these days, not since his wife died 8 years ago. Since then, his life had carved itself into routine. Fence posts at sunrise, coffee at noon, and supper in the echoing quiet of a house meant for two. But that morning, something shifted. A pull, not a voice or a vision, but a sound he couldn't name, a broken keening, thin and raw, drifting on the heat like a ghost's last breath. He reined in the horse, the wagon creaking to a stop, dust hanging in the air like old sins. Caleb didn't move at first. He just listened. A man who's lived alone that long knows the shape of silence. And this wasn't it. He stepped down, his boots crunching over brittle weeds, one hand resting near the revolver he hadn't even realized he was carrying. As he crossed onto the Carter land, the barn loomed before him, its frame sagging, its boards scorched and splintered by time. A fly buzzed past his ear as he reached out, fingertips brushing over names carved long ago by children who were now either ghosts or forgotten. Then the sound came again, faint crying, not loud or panicked, not even pleading, just steady, resigned, like someone who'd long since given up on being saved but hadn't stopped hurting. Caleb eased the door open, just enough to slip inside. Light filtered through cracked slats, striping the floor in pale prison bars, the scent of old hay mixed with something darker, sweat, dried blood, and the sharp bitterness of despair. In the far corner, curled like something broken and discarded, lay a woman. Her dress was torn, one ankle bent at an angle no ankle should bend. Her face was bruised, swollen, her eyes far too wide in a face too young to look that tired. She blinked once at the sight of him, then closed her eyes again like it hurt to be seen. Caleb didn't speak. He didn't rush forward or ask questions. He just stood there, steady as a fence post, one hand resting near his belt, the other at his side. She didn't cry out, didn't beg, just flinched, her breath catching, like even breathing had become a gamble. Her skin was sunburned along the edges, her lips cracked, trembling. Without a word, he turned and walked out. He came back a minute later with a battered canteen, set it down beside her, slow, like approaching a wild animal to use to cruelty. He didn't try to help her drink, just placed it within reach, then backed away. He left her there that night, but the next day, he returned with more bread wrapped in cloth, bandages, and a faded blue calico dress folded under his arm. She hadn't moved much. Her breathing was slower, her skin even paler. She didn't touch the water until he was gone, didn't eat until he was far enough away that she thought he couldn't see. On the third day, her voice came like wind through broken glass. "Don't tell no one I'm here." Caleb crouched by the door, light behind him slanting like a vow. "Ain't planning to," he said. "I mean it. I know." She didn't ask his name. He didn't offer it. But he already knew hers. Everyone in Dustwell knew about Mabel Carter, the heavy-set widow who married young, lost her husband in the second spring, and never quite recovered. Her mother-in-law, Tala, a woman forged in steel in spite, had called her a disgrace, said Mabel shamed the family with her softness, her tears, and her failure to bear children. Folks whispered when she stopped coming to church, but no one asked why. No one but a boy named Elijah, 8 years old, mute, always hiding behind fence posts like he was part of the land itself. He'd seen Caleb near the Carter place and tilted his head in silent question. Caleb had nodded once. The boy never spoke, but the next day, a bundle of fresh cloth appeared outside the barn door, left without a sound. Mabel didn't ask where it came from. She simply pressed it to her shoulder, over the bruise still blooming like a storm. On the 5th morning, Caleb brought the dress again and laid it on a wooden crate. Mabel stared at it, like it might bite. "I ain't her," she whispered. "No, ma'am," he said softly, brushing sawdust from his fingers. You ain't. She didn't touch it until he left, but the next day, she was wearing it. It didn't fit right, sagged in places, hugged tight in others, but she wore it like armor. And her chin was just a little higher. That's when Tala came. She roared in like a summer storm that had been brewing too long. Rode up in a mule-drawn wagon, voice already raised, black gloves clutched like accusations. You think she's yours to save, she snapped, stepping down in a fury. That girl's lazy, always has been, useless, fat, a curse. She brought ruin on my son. Caleb didn't shout. He didn't need to. She's hungry, he said, calm as a worn river stone. Tala laughed, sharp and cruel. She asked to be locked up. She shamed us. Women like her don't deserve a place. Caleb's voice dropped lower. You lock up horses that kick, not women who grieve. They stood there, words thick in the heat. Elijah flinched behind the well as Tala hissed, you'll ruin your name for trash like her. I ain't got a name worth savin' if I leave her there. That night, Mabel walked to Caleb's porch, limping slow, proud, her ankle bound in cloth, her hands blistered from using the cane he'd carved that morning. He'd carried her once, but this time, she came on her own. The table inside was set, one chipped plate, a spoon, a low-burning lantern. You sure? She asked from the doorway, voice fragile. Comin'. She did. He didn't touch her, didn't crowd her, just poured coffee, set a slice of cornbread on the plate, and asked if she preferred molasses. She laughed thin and brittle, but a laugh all the same. When she was done, she stood on shaky legs. He helped her to the spare bed, his wife's old bed, tucked a quilt over her, careful not to brush her skin. I'll be out front, he said. No locks, no chair wedged under the knob. Just a man and an open door. She woke in the night, heart racing, unsure where she was until she saw the soft lamp glow, heard the creak of a rocking chair. She limped to the porch. Caleb was sharpening a knife beneath the stars. She hesitated. Coyotes, he said, without looking up. Sometimes they get too close. She sat on the step, wrapping the blanket tighter around her. I got nowhere to go, she murmured. You got here, he answered. She was quiet for a long while. Why'd you help me? Caleb looked at the stars, then at her. Because somebody should've, a long time ago. She nodded. The next morning came with heat and dust. Tala returned, but this time she brought to men, heavy with threat, shoulders squared, boots stumping. Caleb stepped down from the porch, his shirt open at the throat, a hammer hanging from his belt. She's coming back with us, Tala barked, or we'll take her. She stands, he said, on her own. She's my kin. Then you should have treated her like it. One of the men twitched toward his belt. Caleb's voice stayed low. I've buried snakes bigger than both of you. The silence that followed was thick enough to choke on. Tala's mouth curled into poison. Fine. Keep her. See what this town thinks of you now. They left in a storm of dust that evening. Mabel baked. Her hands shook, but the dough held together. She placed the bread on the porch rail to cool, then sat beside Caleb in the rocking chair. They didn't speak. Fireflies blinked in the tall grass. The breeze stirred the hem of her blue dress, and for once, the cicadas didn't scream. They sang something soft. Some folks think redemption comes with gunshots, grand rescues, and dramatic declarations. But sometimes it's just a chipped plate with cornbread, a man who listens more than he talks, and a porch rocker that sways in quiet rhythm with a woman who, for the first time in her life, is allowed to sit down and stay. And if you ask me, that's the kind of salvation that endures.